Top tier Naval gets it in the shorts. Helicopter PvP mode gets the axe. And, a few vehicles change places. So let's take a look at what's coming on. Good evening. I am Old Dead Man, your host. We are looking at War Thunder's forums today, where the planned economy changes for May have been announced. Now, of course, they'll give a little bit of time for feedback on this, but not a ton, so keep that in mind if you're going to join in on the craziness. So let's take a quick look at what we got going on. We're going to start off with with basically the big winners and the big losers. Then we're going to talk about the helicopter PvP mode and what's going on there. And we're going to finish off with a few vehicles that change places. So let's get started. All right, so plan changes. We got economy changes based on rank, which is the continued to transfer to this new system. Instead of just taking the Band-Aid off, rip, and going for the full changes, they're still doing this graduated set of changes, which really doesn't help the situation any. But let's take a look at the big winners and the big losers. Now, this is a numbers-heavy section, so I'm going to make it as fast as possible and as painless as possible. So, by percentage, the biggest winners are the HMS Cadiz, the F6C10NA, the Electo-1, the MTB Vosper, and the TTD. The biggest losers are the Mirage 3 CJ, the Bow 105 CB2, the Albatross, and the Mi-28 NM. The Arizona is a whopping 31,550 silver lions higher in repair cost. So, wow, that is huge. But these are the big winners and losers by percentage. By raw numbers, of course, the picture looks a little bit different. We get a little bit of HMS Colossus over here. In fact, let me expand this just a bit so we can see. Oh, not that much expand. Whoop, pull it back. Okay. HMS Colossus had a huge improvement in its repair cost, but it's still costing you 43 grand whenever you sink one. HMS Dreadnought, good change. Wyoming, good change. The Imperatrice Maria, getting a pretty good change. And the B-29 is dropping 3,000 more down to 12,000. It should drop a few more times by my estimate. Then we got the biggest losers, and that's the North Dakota, still going up. The Kaiser going up. The Albatross is going up. The Congo's going up. And as we already mentioned, the Arizona, no matter how you slice it, when you're taking that big of a change, you're going to be at the top of the bad list. So the Arizona is still going up by 31,550 silver lions. Reward multipliers have a similar deal. Usually if a vehicle's repair cost goes down, the multiplier also drops to match so that you are not making any more money. In this case, the Kim Ki is getting a better reward multiplier, along with the Panzer IIF, the F222.2, the Ki-10C2C, the PT-20. Now, the ones that lost the most are all low tier because by percentage, they're the ones that take it in the shorts the worst. And that would be the Vosper, the CR-42, the Daimler Mark II, the N.C.223.3 ACG1, then the Ka-Mi. But when you look at it by raw difference, which in case of the reward multipliers is the one that really shows what's going on. The biggest winners are the Sionan from Japan. The A-10A is going up. That'll be a good one for it. The USS Davis, the Albatross, and the Karl Marx. The biggest losers, on the other hand, are the Hyuga, the F-104G for Germany, the G-Lynx helicopter, the IJN Keiko, which I'm certain I butchered that pronunciation, and the J7E for China. And so it's really a mixed bag all through this entire thing. But they do give us some nice summaries of some of the important pieces. In this case, we're looking at the average repair cost and reward multiplier by rank in this particular update. Now, instead of going through all the numbers, I'm just going to give you my impressions. The U.S. for repair cost mostly improves. The Germany it slightly bumps up. The Russians get pretty much a wash. They don't really have much of a positive or negative in the end when you look at the numbers. Britain's top tier made me wince. The average repair cost went up by a considerable margin, but not as bad as Japan, who had this huge repair cost increase on their top tier equipment. And as you can see, I typed in here, yeesh, top tier. And China is not far behind where I typed in egads. Italy, on the other hand, ends up better pretty much across the board with the exception of top tier. And even that is not a huge change for them. France was a wash pretty much across the board. Sweden got better. When you really run the numbers through here, they pretty much got better except for this middle tier here, rank 5. Israel, though, went up in all respects. With their tree as small as it is, that means that they've just taken a pretty big repair cost increase on average. Then we go, that's, by the way, all ground vehicles. For aircraft, well, the picture goes a little bit different. Although, and this is a surprise, the U.S. actually mostly gets better, with the exception of top tier, where they take a pretty good hit there. That said, it's not the worst, and you'll see what I mean. Germany took an even bigger hit on top tier, but when you look at the numbers, it pretty much comes out a wash. Russia was slightly higher, still a pretty decent increase on top tier. Britain mostly gets lower and has the smallest increases, by and large, on these two ranked 6 and 7 combined. Japan's all a wash, mainly because the top tier kind of gets balanced by these middle tiers, which had a pretty good drop. That said, you're not going to be happy with Japan top tier either. China, though, mostly a wash. Your rank 6 stuff went up a significant amount, and your rank 7 just a tiny bit. But it balances out from the upper tiers there. Italy, my heavens. This one went up big time in top tier. And then the rest of the tiers pretty much all went down with just a slight bump up in 6. But their top tier took it in the shorts big time. France, mostly lower, increase at top tier, but most everybody else is getting it, but the average ends up being mostly lower. Sweden, another one, took a huge hit in top tier, but every other tier is an actual improvement. And of course, Israel, another big hit here on top in the ranks 6 and 7, and they just can't make it up with ranks 4 and 5 because there's just not enough stuff there to rebalance. But every nation in top tier goes up in repair costs, slight changes in reward multipliers, but really, you're going to be paying out the shorts for repairs. Now, I could have grabbed the numbers for Blue Water and Coastal, but pretty much I can summarize that real easy. It got worse for repair costs. They're all more expensive to repair, in particular top tier. And that's a good summary of that. You can look at the actual numbers in the update information. It's not really a dev blog from the way they do this, just so you know. But speaking of that dev blog, let's go back over there and look at the changes to helicopter. And a lot of this, I'm going to summarize this real fast here, but the new PvE mode is so popular that the population in PvP literally collapsed. Literally. There's almost nobody playing PvP. And I'll bet you the people playing PvPs were flying Ki-50s and 52s. When they only had themselves to kill, nobody else wanted to be there. Whereas PvE ends up being a great way to grind helicopters, so you're not going into ground RB or something like that with a stock helicopter. So that mode has now been entirely removed, the PvP, and they'll be putting PvE in its place. There'll be a lot of fun. It'll become an official thing and come out of the test event and into the official lineup there. Let's jump into War Thunder itself to look at the vehicles that are changing places. The PUMA and the TAM are switching places. No surprise, because this TAM is now ended up being 8.7 and thus a much lower BR than the PUMA. So it's got to go up. So they're trading places there. Over in China, the Phòng T-34 is trading places with the M42. Doing a little bit of swap out skis there. And that makes sense since the T-34 is actually the better AA gun, better fire rate, better pretty much everything. I mean, really, it's a better machine for anti-aircraft responsibilities. Over in Japan, the J1N1 and the Ki-45 Thai are swapping places. No real reason for this, but I'll bet you there's going to be a BR change for the J1N1 coming soon. It might bump up to 2.3. We'll see. Over in Italy, the G.50 Series 2 and Series 7 are getting pulled out of a group with the CR42, which makes perfect sense to me. That'll be adding an extra step here in between, but I think it probably deserves to have its own breakout from that biplane. And this one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but the C200 group, both these vehicles are going to be moving to rank 2. So it'll probably still be in the same spot, just move down a touch. I'd say maybe they're just kind of trying to refill in this little hole down here in the tech tree, move this whole thing down, and just create a nice little neat looking tech tree, even if it doesn't make much sense from a gameplay perspective. That might not be the best reason. The Sagittario 2 is going all the way down to rank 6 and sliding in right before the G.91 YS, which makes sense. It's the R1 and the pre-series G.91s. Both are 8.3, and the Sagittario is 8.7. So it's just lining it back up where it belongs. This is another one that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but the F222.2 is moving down here underneath the Martin 167A3. Since it's a lower BR, this doesn't make sense, so that might indicate that they're planning a BR upgrade for it soon. Keep that in mind. And the N.C.223.3 and the M.B.174A-3 are going to swap places. Again, that just lines them up in BR order. Makes perfect sense to me. And finally, the M04 and the D3 are going to swap places right here, so that the higher ranked vehicle will be right here in this lineup, and the rank 1.0 will just kind of drop right in there into this whole lineup. Makes sense. It's just as good as any other, so that's a good thing. Thanks for sticking around, for grinding through all those numbers. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I've put the link to this forum thread in the description, so you'll be able to look over there and look for your favorite vehicles, find out what's happening to them, and see what you want to talk about them. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you in War Thunder.